Hello. I need to check my frame rate. Seems like it's doing okay. All those odds and ends of things. So, I'm turn this down just a little bit so it fades out a tiny bit. So, today I will be working on two things. One is a transition section where it goes from the last loop that I had, which involves this little green guy here, where it goes and returns to these square bits on either side, and transitioning to a new something or other. So it'll function kind of like what this guy does. This is forward and back, so it's linear, and then returns back to the original part. But it goes from a yellow circle in the middle to these little green guys on the outside, and so I need to transition the green to a new shape so that I can start a new loop. So first things first with that is I need to have the same start point of where the green is at, and then transition to something new. Doesn't really matter what it is, but maybe it'll be red. I like having red bits. Maybe it'll be just like a red line in the middle. I think what I might do is just have these green guys, I don't know, come together in a similar rotation that the previous one has, rotating counterclockwise, just so it sort of goes smooth, then have a line, and then the line becomes red. It might be as simple as that. But in order to do that, need to put down a piece of transparency onto this just reference sheet, tape it down, put on some marks, label it, and then get to animating. So I'm going to do that. First, I've got to put on some gloves. Just realized I taped over the registration marker. now it's waiting for it to dry. It shouldn't take terribly long. There's some spots in here that I can fill a little better. But this is always the most boring part. Out of the 2 days that I've done this, the most boring part is waiting for this first one to dry because I can't work on any other aspect of it. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them out there. Ask away. The basic animation, you can see what's happening is these guys are elongating on the top and the bottom respectively, and then dragging a little bit, twisting towards this middle section here, and then the exterior of the circle gets closer to where it just becomes an outline and doesn't have any filling aspect, and then it becomes a dot that extends up into a straight line, and then the middle of that line is replaced with the light blue, which extends further and further out until it takes up the entire length of the cropped area, at which point the red starts to take over and takes up the entire area. The red is bleeding a little bit, like it's got a lot of ink coming out of it, and so that might make for some slower subsequent sections of stuff just as I'm working. Or I guess it's really only the first section of it all, but I'm going to fan this a little bit to try and expedite the drying time. And I've found the past 2 days that the manila folders I use are the easiest, like the right sort of amount of rigid. That one section's going to take a sec to dry. This is much thinner paint as well, because I guess it has to come through the nib of the marker, and so the paint that I've been using is thicker, and even if it isn't like fully dry, it's gonna keep its shape and placement. But this stuff, because it's so thin, it's closer to like an ink, so if it doesn't dry before I scan it, it's gonna smear and distort a lot. I think the green is all dry, but this red little bit right here is just a puddle of ink. This little guy right here, which you can't see, but I can see in the reflections of things and such. Once the paint dries, it's got sort of a matte appearance to it, and it's not very shiny, but when it's wet, it's very shiny. So after this, I'll work on loops that start and end with this red section here. So I'm going to scan this, get a feel for the motion, and then move on from there. And by moving on from there, I mean that I'll make a new sheet of reference stills that will be taken from this final frame. But gotta dry it first. And it is being slow. This might have been better to do with the other paint marker. Also, while it's dry, I'm gonna have a little bubble tea. It's a weird look. The gloves and bubble tea. Sorry this is taking so long to dry. I can show yesterday's stuff in the meantime. So that's the transitional bit. And then the first loop section, adding in the what on the transparency appears as orange, but here is more of like a pink. And then adding in the red. The blue. And then finally the yellow that looks a lot more orange. And then the shadow of this is because this is plastic transparency sheets, which is also why it's taking so long to dry. If this were on paper, a lot of the moisture would be sucked into the fibers of the paper, but because this is plastic, it's just resting on top, and so it just has to completely dry. The paint has to dry. It doesn't have any where for the moisture to go that's not in the air. Getting closer. It's this guy, and you can't see, but the one where I first put the marker to the sheet that had a little bit more ink on the nib, and so it pooled. You gotta be careful when I touch my face or hair because there's oils, and the oils leave marks and also make it so the it acts as a resist. It resists it resists the ink. Just gonna touch this. It's still so bright. Just a tiny bit. I think it should be good now to scan. So now I get to scan. Now I am going to scan. So let me turn off this image. This one's free of this. I'll use this to protect the animation cell. I don't know if it's considered a cell or if it's cellulose. I don't know the 100% terminology. Gotta make some folders for all these bits. It's a series of stuff. 120 or 100, 1200 dpi scan. It'll take a moment to scan. This is not a very exciting portion of it. Maybe I shouldn't front load these with a lot of just but once this is scanned, then I'll process it and create a new reference sheet that has just the placement of that red line that is the end of this transitional animation section. That is not a loop. It's slow to scan because it's 1200 dpi, which means that typical print resolution is 300 dpi or ppi, depends on it. Dpi means dots per inch. If you're working with digital stuff, then it's ppi because it's pixels per inch. But typical standard print resolution goes from 150 for something that's lower res, lower quality. Something like a newspaper probably is more likely to function as 150 dpi, which means that for every inch there's a 150 by 150 grid of dots. Higher, like standard photo print resolution is closer to 300 dpi, and then like high quality is like 600 dpi. I am scanning at 1200 dpi, so if I scan these these rectangles that are a little under 2 inches wide, I'll have a high enough pixel resolution in order to have each of these frames be 1080p. So 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels tall. These are a little bit larger, and then I scale them down a tiny bit. That finished scanning. Let's open up Photoshop. And I've got that open, so don't save that. And is Photoshop popped up now? Yeah, it is. Okay. So we are going to open what I just finished animating on. Frame rate might drop a little bit here, so just be wary of that bit. This is our transition JPEG. Cropping it down slightly according to those registration marks that I have. Let's rotate. And so now we have a grid that has all these individual stills in here. Ugh. I don't know why, but when I'm working with larger files, oftentimes when I do a shortcut for a tool, it shifts. So the paint being on the transparency and there being a slight gap between the transparency and the white background generates or creates a shadow and sort of indicates a different physicality about it. So I need to resize this slightly. I have it set to where it needs to be 12,000 by 9,000 pixels, so just did that. It's not a huge difference in size, but it aligns everything. So I'm going to copy this, save this as, need to flatten it. Copy, and then save this as duplicate, and that you're getting some deep tones when my keyboard hits a weird spot. So this is saving, copied it. While that's saving, let's open a recent file, the previous align, and I'm going to save this as a different file and get rid of the, or I guess for these I don't really need to, if I have a line I don't want to, I'll just put it all in the same one. It's easier to deal with. So now it fits into this grid that I already have set up. I'm going to save this as a new file so that I don't overwrite what I worked on yesterday. And then save out these individual stills from some pre-formatting that I did on this grid. That will save out where those blue lines are at, save out those individual sections as their own image. You can't see this window that I'm working in right now. I'll have an animation to show in like a minute or two. So I saved out each of these individual sections. I don't need both of these open currently. Now let's load these files into a stack, which is an automated process. It saves me a lot of time. My computer is humming. And while it's humming, I'm going to have some more bubble tea. Whenever I play back an animation in Photoshop, the streamed version of it is not the right frame rate. I like looking at it visually just for myself to see what it looks like as a loose idea, but you won't have an accurate representation of it until it's played back in a different format. In this case, an animated GIF is the easiest one to pull into my streaming software. So give it a moment. Is that the end of that side? Yep, end of that tape side. So I'm gonna open this up in OBS and then flip that tape so you can see this. Come on. Live designs. Red line transition, loop, GIF, and make that visible. The tape you see above my head is a live feed. So the tape that's playing is what you're hearing. So this is just a transitional section that will get from previous loop to this next series of loops. And so what I need to do is take the last frame from this animation, frame number 30, and create a basic guide for animating to. And so to do that, I'm going to open up the print file. Actually, I'm going to make a new thing that is a little bit cleaner. I'm just going to take this outline, make a new layer, and then stroke this. At. And then outline this box, flatten everything, copy it, and then don't save that because I don't need it. Get rid of these previous ones, and then place this into the existing guidelines. Save this, print it, grab it, and then I'll animate a series of things. Not the same color. This song is louder. This is taking a while to print. Okay. Save this. And then close it. This is all being very slow. Okay. There goes. Printer. I'll leave this up because I'll need to return back to it. But now I will turn off Photoshop and such. Next step, put transparency on here, tape it down, and then figure out an animation that I want to do. I think will take a little bit to dry everything out as I'm working, so feel free to ask any questions or just make comments. I don't know, whatever. have to lean over a little bit because the lights reflect, and you can't see that, but I can. Okay, now I need to start recording. I might need to take a little bit of that up. Just bled more than I thought it would. Soaking up a little bit of that so it doesn't take forever to dry. These are very slowly drying. More drying time. This red is particularly wet. It's got a stronger flow of ink. This might be like 5 minutes or longer. I don't know. Sorry for this long dry time. I would consider using a heat gun, but this is pretty thin plastic, and so I don't want it to warp. So just fanning it is the best course of action that I think I have. Maybe I didn't shake it enough and so it's thinner. Who knows? I don't. Shake it more aggressively next time I work with it, but for now, I'm done with that red. I might mess with the white on top of the red after I get a little bit more in here, just because with these shapes, the area filled is larger, and so I'm more confident that the white will contrast it a bit, but we'll see how it looks. But it would obviously rest on top of it, and so it'd sort of mess with the physicality of it, because it wouldn't cast a shadow in that situation. The circle in this bottom right area is still like fully wet. I do think that fanning it helps, but it might just be that I'm paying closer attention to what's happening with it. I was bending the folder a little bit and might have distorted what I just scanned. Well, this is running. I'll just let you watch the loop, the most recent one, so there's at least something you can visually see that's not paint drying. It won't be as long for any of the subsequent ones. This red is just got a stronger flow of ink, and so stronger flow of paint, and so there's more paint on the surface. It's going well. I'm just waiting for this to dry. How are you doing? This red, you can't see it, but there's just pools of paint that are resting on the plastic sheet. I just got like the cheapest 100 sheet thing of transparency paper. I don't know if it's the best or the worst. You can get like animation cell stuff outright. This is Samsill. I don't know if you can read that. SAMSILL. 5 mil tracing paper. Or not tracing paper. I use a lot of transparency film. I tried to get the thinnest that I could because I wanted to have it to where I could flip it over or have it on the back and it wouldn't be that far off of the surface. Because I initially thought about doing it with like glass or more robust transparency, but because I'm using a scanner, anything that's more than like just a hair's width off of the surface will be out of focus. And I wanted to be able to scan the front and back side of the transparency if I wanted to, like how older animation would be painted on cells and then you'd photograph the back side of it because it would appear much more flat. But if I were doing that on the scanner with like a sheet of glass, I've got some glass that I've messed around with painting on and scanning, and it works fine on the front side, but on the reverse, it is, I think it's like 2 millimeters thick or something. I forget how thick it is, but it separates it from the surface to where it looks very soft and out of focus. But this is Samsill 100 sheet pack of transparency film. It's not anything that like I've worked a lot with different transparency films and found my favorite. This is just one that I bought. It's packaged in a way that works well for keeping each sheet relatively protected because it comes with this sort of tissue paper between each one, which some people in the reviews complained about because they wanted to put it into a laser printer and they'd have to separate each sheet out individually in order to do that, and that's time consuming or potentially jams the printer. And so some person had that complaint, but I've had no issues with it. Works well for me and my purposes. I'm guessing any transparency film that you find will work if you're trying to do something similar to this. Yeah. And you can buy, if you are trying to do like more traditional animation celluloid film, and that gets pricey much faster. I've never actually bought it myself, but when it comes with the hole punches in it, all prepped and ready for you, it's expensive. Which is why in the past, people would sometimes like wipe the film after it had been photographed, because it was ultimately trying to like photograph it to film. This is almost done. There are 2 spots that are still a little bit wet, and I'd like for them to dry, but soon I will have this scanned and I'll be doing more interesting stuff again. And it won't take nearly as long for subsequent frames if I'm just working with my thinner paint markers. Okay, one spot is just about done. This one, it's so close to being dry. The angle from where I'm viewing this, my lights are over here and up, so when I look down at this sheet, I see the light reflected out. You don't, because you're seeing the camera view. But it makes it so I can see where all the wet spots are because the paint is more reflective. Okay, I think this is done drying. to do some file naming stuff. Scan time. I'm going to try and do these just sort of in sequence, so it's easier to process. Once, I don't know, I think the scanner is... Oh, there it goes. Well, this one's scanning. Drink some bubble tea. This is also the longest song on any of these tapes. This was from when I first was making music. And it is just a just a scale. Arpeggiated scale. Using a free synth app on my phone because I was like, I'm going to spend the least amount of money possible while still working analog in some regard. And so, sorry, this is Chewy Boba. Pretty sure this is scanning. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it's progressing. Okay, it's hard to tell. You can't hear it scanning when it's scanning at a high resolution because it's going very slow. So I got a drum machine and I wanted to use a free app on my phone because I was like, I want to have something that no one else has or far fewer people have. And so I had a drum machine that I ran through a distortion pedal and then just had this scale. So it was like... Tape everything down, and now the active part. What color do I want to do? I think I'm going to do dark blue. Okay, I'm going to start recording again. Well, you're recording, but locally, so I have a high full resolution thing that I can get used to immediately after I'm done. Okay, now these get to dry. And I pooled it in these frames. Anywhere where there's a large shape and I'm sort of drawing to fill it in, it's a little bit slow. But while these are drying, so I'm gonna open up Photoshop. Open up what I scanned most recently. I didn't change the file destination. I think that might be where I put the weight on top. Maybe not. I don't know. There's clearly a line there. Wait, I was just doing some saving of stuff. This is almost dry. More shapes. And weird moire patterns with going around. I don't know what that line is that's popping up. I think it might be from putting pressure on the scanner. I need to change the file destination. I'm gonna use this more like canary yellow next. yellow, then white, then black. Or maybe black, then white. I don't know, but right now, waiting on this to scan. I'll make sure that actually, okay. Make sure that I hit scan, because sometimes I don't. I hit enter and it doesn't initiate the scan. And I'm just waiting. Okay. Put on a new tape. Come on. Close. waiting again for this to dry a little bit. It's pooled up a little bit at the top. While it's drying, work on processing the other stuff. That's the idea. So it's a delayed gratification sort of bit, but let's open up Photoshop. Open the new scanned item. Okay, yeah, this one doesn't have that line. Save this. Slowly. Annoying stuff. I messed up the saving and everything. So I need to find her. Save all this out again, because I forgot to turn off the selection of slices. So there's the second part of the loop stuff. This is almost dry. I've chosen shapes instead of lines and dots, which means that there's more paint, so it dries slower. Turn this back on. I was just watching paint dry, might as well have an animation going. I'm probably gonna go back and digitally edit out, or at least smooth out that line in the middle that's flashing. It's distracting also because of the format of everything, where the stills aren't, if there's something wrong with one still, it's not wrong with the next one equally. It sort of jumps around a little bit, so it's more distracting. It's only like 4 of them. I'm gonna see what it looks like to just go into the I'm gonna try saving it out and see how it looks comparatively. This looks better after doing the little healing brush thing. It's not like 100% whatever, but it looks less jarring. Okay, so I'm going to pull in this guy, the thing that I just adjusted so you can see a contrast of what it's looking like, one and the other. Like, it still looks like something's happening that's kind of weird, but it's not as jarring. It looks... Wrong one. This one. It's less flashing sort of looking and more just looks... The issue looks more organic than digital, because what happened for this, for the top one, you can see every now and again along this sort of line, there's a jump, and what happened was, while I was scanning it, I forgot to put, I put a weight on top of the scanner so that it keeps things as flat as possible, because the stuff is a little bit warped that I'm using, and I forgot to, and so it all of a sudden got much brighter. The foam core got closer to the scanner and reflected more of the light from the scanner itself, and so all of a sudden it's brighter. So that's what happened there. And what I did in the second one is I just digitally did a little bit of some cleanup. It's not perfect at all. Oh, there it is. Harsh jump. Let me just imagine. No, it's there. But it looks better. Slightly less distracting. It's not perfect, but that's something. Okay. And now I'm gonna use the black line and then end with the white, I think. Just sort of go over and just sort of do its own deal. Okay, so everything's set. I'm gonna start recording. less aware with that guy. Mhm. Work on processing the other stuff. I'm like, what do I do now? Continue to work. keep forgetting to change some settings when I save out the stills. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, one more drawing to go, and then I'll be done. gonna try one other possibility for cleaning up the red ones that are a little bit weird. Just take the one with blue and remove the blue as best I can. I think it'll look better. I only need it for the set number of frames. This should be... it'll be a little bit weird for right here, but I might be able to just... Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate this section. It's going to be a little imperfect, but it'll be less jarring. Okay. I think that's the best I'm gonna get that still has a naturalistic sort of look about it, so I'm going to save this out one more time. It's not perfect, but it's much better than the first go of it. Okay, fix that up. So let me pull up image 2 and close Photoshop. You can look at this guy while I go through my spiel. If you want to buy stuff from me, you can go to my web store, traceloops.com/store. If you want to purchase something and have it shipped outside of the US, you can email me, traceloops@traceloops.com. You can also email me with comments, concerns, questions, curiosities, commissions, etc., etc. Again, that is traceloops@traceloops.com. If you want to watch this stream or other streams in full from this year and moving forward, any future streams, as I'm intending to, you can check out more things here on my YouTube channel, recordings of previous streams and future things. If you want to follow me on other platforms, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, Spotify, all of those places. I'm Traceloops, TRACELOOPS. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/traceloops, where you'll find recordings of older live streams as well as high resolution versions of artwork that I create during stream. So like what you see today, you'll get the actual scans. You also get a selection of tutorials, and then at higher tiers, new song for me weekdays, and at the highest tier, a monthly postcard for me with original artwork on the front, little message on the back, and a discount to that aforementioned web store. That's it for today. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person tuned in right now, but doesn't mean. No, it just means say thank you for watching. It's just a message from me to me. But plan on being back tomorrow. Might do one more of these. I like them. They're fun. They're relatively easy. Get something done. And I got a better grasp on recording the process for localized work, so I don't have to wait for the full stream to be processed, odds and ends of things. But plan on being back tomorrow, and then it's the weekend, so I'll be off for weekend stuff. But thanks for watching. I'm gonna head out. Adios.